Stella Thompson monthly sponsored financially struggling students, spending all her personal savings. She asked me for $2 million for studying abroad, and I refused. She called me a kept man. One time at a bar, I saw a man and a woman standing very close, and the woman's back looked exactly like Stella Thompson. They quickly disappeared, and bystanders whispered, "The man is Dylan, who she sponsored." The bar was still lively with music and dancing, but my mood plummeted. I asked the helpful people around about the couple, but that was all they knew. It was just hearsay. I took out my phone to call my wife, but she didn't pick up right away. Mark pushed my shoulder, comforting me. "Ethan Miller, didn't your wife give all her money to financially struggling students?" "That couldn't be her. It just looked like her." From behind, I frowned, recalling that back, the same height, the same build, even the same hairstyle. Could there really be so many coincidences? After returning home from the bar, I started looking for information about that financially struggling student, but I searched every corner of the house and still found nothing. Just then, my phone rang. It was my wife calling me back. "Why are you calling me? Did you change your mind?" Her tone was impatient, but her breathing was ragged. "Yesterday, my wife asked me to give money for a financially struggling student to study abroad, but I refused. Stella, when are you coming back?" After a few seconds of silence, on the other end of the line, I heard heavy breathing. "I'll come back when you agree." "Okay, I agree." Hearing that, my wife hung up the phone. My heart felt as if it had been pierced by 10,000 silver needles, leaving me utterly raw. That sound just now was definitely not normal, but I still held onto the fantasy that everything today was just me overthinking. An hour later, I was sitting on the couch smoking a cigarette when my wife, Stella Thompson, returned. Seeing her, wearing jeans, not a bodycon dress, I breathed a sigh of relief. It must not have been her at the bar today. My wife suddenly reached up and scratched her chest. "A bug bite. It's so itchy." Her explanation seemed forced. At that moment, I was certain my wife, Stella Thompson, was cheating. I turned my head and saw the wedding photo hanging on the wall. I thought back to my wife and my past. We met on a sunny afternoon. Stella Thompson had cut her arm saving a stray cat. At that time, I thought she shone like an angel, and fell in love with her at first sight. When I started my company, Richard Thompson gave me $200,000 as seed money. He also used his connections to help me build relationships. So, in Stella Thompson's eyes, I was just a kept man, completely reliant on their family. But she didn't know that Richard Thompson took that $200,000 back the very same day. His so-called connections just amounted to a real estate agent's phone number. Later, Richard Thompson also publicly claimed that without their family, I wouldn't be where I am today. I thought we were family, so I didn't explain it to outsiders. Richard Thompson took millions from me, and I never told anyone about that either. Just half a year ago, my wife, Stella Thompson, suddenly said she wanted to sponsor financially struggling students. I asked her who she was sponsoring. Every time, she would say it was the student's privacy, and couldn't be revealed. My WIF sponsorship amounts grew larger and larger, emptying our savings. Every month, I would give her and the financially struggling student a considerable living allowance, but my wife was still not satisfied, demanding I give money for the financially struggling student to study abroad. Over this matter, my wife and I had a big argument. Now, thinking back over the past 6 months, there have been many subtle changes in my wife. Her style of dress changed from comfortable to figure-hugging. Our marital intimacy, she either refused, or was perfunctory. However, her complexion was very rosy, and she was almost inseparable from her phone. Actually, she was just indulging herself outside, and had no time for me. "I am going to take a shower and change." My wife gave me a cold glance, and headed straight for the bathroom. Her bag fell from the shoe cabinet, and I walked over to pick it up. A black bodycon dress slipped out. My throat bobbed as I continuously swallowed my saliva. This dress was identical to the one worn by the woman at the bar today. It also had a faint smell of alcohol and cigarette smoke. The bathroom door suddenly closed, then opened again. My wife ran over at full speed, snatching the dress from my hand. "What are you doing with my dress?" She seemed somewhat annoyed. I frowned and slowly began to speak. "The dress just fell out of your bag. Stella, do you carry a spare outfit when you go out now?" My wife paused for a moment in surprise, but then quickly nodded. "I brought an extra outfit in case of an unexpected situation." With that, my wife took the dress and her phone into the bathroom, but just now, when she was so close to me, I clearly saw the mark on her chest. There was a distinct human bite mark on it. I sat back down on the couch and slowly pulled out a cigarette. My lighter wouldn't catch. I tried several times to light it, but a raging fire had already ignited within me as I was smoking my third cigarette. Stella Thompson came out of the bathroom. She had now changed into a high-necked nightgown, completely covering the red mark on her chest. She frowned, fanning her nose with her hand, her face full of disdain. Old men don't just smell like old men, they smell like smoke too. My wife's quiet murmurs still drifted into my ears. I stubbed out the cigarette, smiling wryly a few times. So, in my wife's mind, I was already an old man with an old man's smell, but she was the same age as me. My wife sat directly opposite me on the couch and spoke first. I calculated it. The first year of studying abroad will cost about 2 million. Transfer the money to my card within the next couple of days. I rubbed my temples, trying to calm myself down. Everything now was just my speculation, without solid evidence. She wouldn't admit it, and no one would believe me. To catch a thief, you need concrete proof. I couldn't act impulsively. Stella, I can give you the 2 million, but I have one condition. The joy in my wife's eyes flashed, then she narrowed them, staring at me. What condition? I want to meet the financially struggling student. I should at least know what the person getting 2 million of my money looks like, right? I crossed my legs, waiting for my wife's answer. I'll have to ask for her consent on this. That kind of child has strong self-esteem. I nodded, agreeing with her point. The doorbell suddenly rang, and my wife immediately stood up, heading for the door. Her phone, casually placed on the coffee table, flashed. A message popped up. Stella, eat more of the takeout I ordered for you. You must be exhausted from earlier. It was followed by a smirking emoji. The sound of the door closing followed, and I averted my gaze. My wife, holding the takeout, had a blissful smile on her face. I am hungry, so I ordered takeout. Do you want to eat some with me? I shook my head. You eat. I am going to shower. My wife picked up her phone, glanced at it twice, then chuckled softly. I was at the bathroom door, about to come out, when I heard a voice message my wife was playing. Stella, only you can be in the passenger seat of my sports car. It was a male voice, but with a breathy voice. Was he the financially struggling student my wife sponsored? No. According to the helpful people, he should be Dylan, the male model she sponsored. After coming out of the bathroom, my wife was still engrossed in her phone. I glanced at her phone screen. It was a picture of a Porsche sports car. That sports car cost about 2 million. So, my wife was using the excuse of sponsoring a financially struggling student for study abroad to buy a sports car for Dylan, the male model. The moment my wife saw me, she was so startled that her phone dropped to the floor. Ethan Miller, why did you come out without making a sound? I gave a slight smile. Maybe you were too focused on your phone. I bent down, intending to help my wife pick up her phone, but she got to it before me. Mia said she can meet you tomorrow evening. My eyes widened. I hadn't expected them to agree so readily. Okay, so that kid's last name is Wu. My wife rolled her eyes at me, pouting as she entered the bedroom. He's just a kept man. Without my family, where would he be today? Ungrateful, asking for such a small amount of money, and still so indecisive. I didn't know if she intended for me to hear that or if it was accidental. I took a deep breath, narrowing my eyes as I stared at my wife's retreating back. I quickened my steps and scooped my wife into my arms. Ethan Miller, what are you doing? My wife shrieked in my arms. Struggling desperately, I placed her on the master bedroom bed. I held her hands firmly. Stella, what else would I be doing? Of course, we're going to do what a husband and wife should do. Hearing that, my wife struggled even more fiercely, her eyes filled with fear and disgust. Ethan Miller, I am very tired today, and I am not in the mood. Her feet kept kicking at my abdomen, treating me like an enemy. I smiled and released her. If you're tired, get some good rest. I'll sleep in the guest bedroom tonight. With that, I walked out of the master bedroom, closing the door behind me. Actually, the physical contact just now had already caused me physical discomfort. Images of my wife and Dylan, the male model, kept flashing in my mind. I rushed into the restroom and vomited into the toilet. The next evening, I arrived at the agreed-upon restaurant early. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, Stella Thompson appeared with a girl who looked like a student. Actually, I had already expected my wife to find someone to impersonate her, but the girl produced many photos with my wife, along with some transfer proofs, which surprised me. I will definitely study hard abroad, and won't let you down, Stella and Uncle, the girl solemnly promised. while my wife patted the girl's shoulder. Mia, the takeout you ordered yesterday was very tasty. All of this made me confused. Could it be that the person at the bar wasn't my wife? Were those texts sent by the girl? But that voice message was clearly male. A flood of questions muddled my thoughts. The waiter accidentally spilled water on my wife's clothes. My wife got up and went to the restroom to tidy herself up. I looked at the girl in front of me and slowly spoke. Mia, which restaurant did you order the fried chicken from for Stella last night? The girl's eyes immediately showed panic. I don't remember. I just ordered it randomly. But my wife's takeout last night wasn't fried chicken at all. It was pizza. I made an excuse and quickly left the restaurant. Actually, I didn't go far, but sat in my car observing. Not long after, a young figure appeared in my sight. He and my wife embraced in front of everyone. Anger and humiliation instantly rushed to my head. I swung a punch at Dylan, the male model my wife was keeping, but when I saw his face, I froze. How could it be him? My eyes stared directly at the person in front of me, my fists still in midair. My wife, wearing high heels, stomped hard on my foot. Ethan Miller, what are you doing? The man bared his teeth and smiled at me. Ethan, long time no see. It was my wife's cousin, Leo, who worked in another province. I lowered my fist. I had been too impulsive, not understanding the whole situation. My wife, Stella Thompson's eyes were as wide as saucers, her hands on her hips. Ethan Miller, didn't you say you had something at the company? Why are you back again? I forced a smile, explaining awkwardly. The company said there was nothing after all. Stella Thompson wanted to send the girl back, and asked me to entertain her cousin. I agreed without hesitation. Leo, however, pulled me towards the bar. Ethan, come on, let's dance on stage. I waved him off, sipping my alcohol, pondering everything that happened today. It still seemed I had no evidence of my wife cheating. My phone vibrated wildly in my pocket. It was my wife calling. I took my phone outside the bar to answer. Ethan, you've met the person. When are you transferring the money? I could tell my wife was a bit impatient. Stella, the company's cash flow is a bit tight recently. Give me 2 more days. Okay, just 2 days. As soon as she finished speaking, the busy signal sounded in the receiver. Perhaps only financial transactions remained between Stella Thompson and me. When I re-entered the bar, Leo was already seated at a booth. He was gulping down alcohol, looking satisfied. Ethan, you didn't happen to mistake me for Stella's lover today, did you? Leo opened his mouth wide, laughing heartily, and patted my shoulder. I frowned, for a moment unsure if Leo was trying to test me. Oh, come on, could Stella really have a lover? Seeing that I didn't respond, Leo continued rambling on, scrolling on his phone. A few minutes later, he suddenly snorted at his phone. I'll just wait and see when he can buy this $2 million Porsche. He must have been taken care of by some wealthy patron. My heart sank. Another coincidence. I cleared my throat, looking at Leo in confusion. Leo, who wants to buy a Porsche? Hearing that, Leo began a long explanation. He had a middle school classmate, who not long after graduation went into the rough side of society. Recently, at their middle school reunion, this classmate showed up dressed head to toe in luxury goods. He even paid for all the expenses that night. He seemed to have made a lot of money, but some classmates privately said that he was working as Dylan, a male model. A while ago, he was noticed by a wealthy patron, which is why he became well off. Just now, this classmate posted a social media post with a picture of a Porsche sports car. The caption was, "In 2 days, you will be mine." Leo, which Porsche is he going to buy? Leo immediately held his phone in front of me. Ethan, look, it's this one. I stared at the phone for 10 seconds. It was identical to the one my wife had looked at. Even the color was exactly the same. It's a small world indeed. My wife-sponsored Dylan, the male model, had been found. Leo, do you dislike this male classmate? Leo nodded repeatedly. When we were in school, he and I were arch rivals. From Leo, I learned that this male classmate was named Dylan. From the photo, he certainly looked young and energetic, and his features were pretty good. He should be my wife's type. Oh, look, he's like a woman. He posted another social media post. What disgusting stuff is he posting? Listening to Leo rambling on, I snatched his phone. It was a photo of a hotel room with 2 embracing figures. I zoomed in on the photo. In the bottom right corner, there was a woman's handbag. Looking at this handbag, I curled my lips into a smile. My wife, Stella Thompson, was carrying this exact bag today, and this bag was custom-made, below its brand name. The character, Faye, was engraved. Why did Dylan delete his social media post again? Leo kept swiping his phone, but couldn't find that photo anymore. I took a sip of alcohol, curling my lips as I looked at him. Leo, do you want to see a good show involving Dylan? Leo stared at me with a confused look. Ethan, what do you mean? Exposing Dylan's true colors and letting everyone know he's a male model supported by a wealthy patron. Upon hearing my words, Leo's eyes lit up, eager to get involved. Ethan, can I invite one of my classmates? He's a streamer with 500,000 followers, and also hates Dylan. He can do a live broadcast later. I immediately gave a thumbs up. Things were getting interesting. The scene of catching them cheating should be lively. I recognized the hotel in the photo at a glance. It was a 5-star hotel downtown, and the owner of this hotel was my friend Mark. When Leo and I arrived at the hotel entrance, his classmate was ready with 2 phones. Mark was also waiting for me in the hotel lobby. He patted my shoulder, staring at me meaningfully. I've seen the surveillance footage. It's her. Here is the room key card. I don't know if it was right or wrong to invite you for drinks that day. I took the room key card and headed for the elevator. Leo and his classmate immediately followed. Ethan, what did your friend mean? I don't understand. Aren't we here to expose Dylan? Could it be that your friend also knows Dylan? I raised an eyebrow, revealing a profound expression. I'll find out later. I didn't rush into the room but paused at the door for a moment. A familiar panting sound came from inside the room. Leo and his classmate's cheeks flushed. Taking a deep breath, I swiped the room key card and pushed the door open. Clothes were scattered on the floor, and the handbag was still on the table. There was a moment of silence in the room, but then screams immediately broke out. Someone was taking photos from various angles with their phone, while others stood frozen. Stella, how could it be you? Leo stood there dumbfounded, but strangely, there was only my wife in the room, no sign of Dylan. Yet, there was clearly a man's jacket on the floor. At this point, my wife finally snapped out of it, frantically searching for her phone. She seemed to want to tip someone off, but then, footsteps sounded outside the door, along with something dropping. Dylan, don't run, Leo suddenly shouted, then he and his classmate took off running. I walked to the door, squatted down, and picked up the bag. I frowned. Inside were some small toys. I threw the bag to my wife, playing quite elaborately, aren't we? It was then I suddenly noticed the TV was playing an adult film. Stella Thompson's face turned crimson, but she stubbornly denied it. I don't know what you're talking about. I sat down on the couch and lit a cigarette. I stared at her meaningfully. I said, you are a very generous person, sponsoring a financially struggling student to buy a Porsche sports car. Immediately, Stella Thompson's face turned red like a ripe tomato, from her neck to her ears. She leaped from the bed, now wearing a bathrobe. Ethan Miller, what nonsense are you talking about? The Mia I sponsored. You met her today, didn't you? That money was for her to study abroad. At this moment, my wife was surprisingly self-righteously, still lying through her teeth. I took a puff of my cigarette, and blew out a cloud of bluish-gray smoke towards her. Just then, Leo ran back, panting. Ethan, that Leo ran too fast. I couldn't catch him. I nodded slightly, saying nothing. Stella, are you the wealthy patron supporting Dylan? Leo stared at my wife, his face full of disbelief. I curled my lips into a smile. Your sister isn't supporting him. She's sponsoring him. Dylan is a financially struggling student. Thumb. Leo was hit by a pillow my wife threw. Leo, get lost as far as you can. Silence returned to the room, leaving only my wife and me. Ethan Miller, don't forget, you're nothing but a kept man. If it weren't for my dad back then, you'd be nothing. Stella Thompson glared at me, her eyes fierce. It was as if I was the one who had done something wrong. Suddenly, my wife covered her mouth, and rushed to the restroom. Soon after, sounds of vomiting followed. My brows furrowed tighter and tighter as I stubbed out the cigarette in my hand. Standing up, I walked to the restroom door. Leaning against the wall, Stella Thompson was half crouching, facing the toilet. She was continuously vomiting into the toilet, looking very unwell. After a full 10 minutes, she finally managed to stand up with difficulty. Stella Thompson wiped her mouth. Maybe the dinner tonight wasn't clean. I looked her up and down. It's not the dinner, it's you. You must be pregnant. In an instant, My wife's face turned pale, her eyes flickering with panic. Suddenly, my wife slowly walked towards me and took my hand. Ethan, you're going to be a dad. Her rapid change in expression shocked me. She then placed my hand on her abdomen. Feel, this is our child. I pulled my hand back as if shocked by electricity. Physical discomfort struck me again. Stella, are you sure the child is mine? Ethan, if the child isn't yours, whose could it be? My wife's eyes showed determination. I bit my lip, feeling a little swayed. Given the timing, it wasn't impossible. Ethan, I just came to the hotel alone today to watch a movie. There's really nothing else. Don't overthink it. I didn't say anything more about her explanation. Now, the more pressing issue was, whose child was it? After returning home from the hotel, my wife was immersed in excitement. She called Richard Thompson, reporting the good news. My wife's pregnancy disrupted my original plan. I felt no joy at this news. Instead, I was a little afraid. Afraid the child really was mine. The fragile truth of my marriage with my wife had already been half exposed. I wanted to smoke, but then remembered my wife was pregnant. So I walked out of the house and went to the neighborhood garden. Just as I was about to take out a cigarette, my phone vibrated continuously in my pocket. I looked at the screen. It was Richard Thompson calling. Ethan, you must treat Stella well. She's carrying your child. Pregnancy for a woman is like having one foot in the grave. Richard Thompson rambled on, and finally he got to the point. Ethan, I am a bit tight on money right now. Can you give me $300,000 first? I shook my head at the phone and hung up directly. I used to give him money because I wanted to maintain my marriage with my wife. I also wanted to treat her family well. But now that she had betrayed me, everything was meaningless. My phone vibrated again. I thought it was Richard Thompson calling again, and tried to hang up, but my hand slipped to the answer button. Ethan, come over to my place. There's something you might find useful. I glanced at the screen. It was Mark, my friend, who owned the hotel. As soon as I arrived at Mark's place, he poured me a glass of alcohol. Ethan, we caught someone secretly filming at our hotel. I looked at Mark with a bewildered expression. What does that have to do with me? That person installed a pinhole camera in the hotel room. My mouth twitched. I understood what Mark meant. Don't tell me Stella Thompson's room also had one installed. Mark snapped his fingers and nodded at me. Now, how about we enjoy your wife's wonderful moments with another man? Although it sounded like he was asking for my consent, in the blink of an eye, he started playing the video. My wife's voice once again sounded in my ears, and the screen showed Dylan, the male model, and my wife entangled. I picked up the remote control and turned it off directly. Mark, however, had a playful smile. I could have filmed something even more exciting, but who knew you'd show up like an unexpected intervention? Too bad about those toys. I remained silent, taking a large gulp of alcohol. What are you going to do now? Just letting her leave with nothing? Isn't that too easy on her? I swirled the red wine glass in my hand. I had undeniable proof of my wife's infidelity. Stella Thompson is pregnant, and she says the child is mine. Mark looked at me, shocked, and said nothing more. That night, I drank myself into a stupor and slept at Mark's place. When I woke up in the morning, my phone had many unread texts. Stella Thompson had sent me quite a few, asking where I was. She even accused me of having another woman, which was just projecting. Although I hadn't figured out how to deal with my wife yet, dealing with Dylan, the male model, was no problem. Just as I was about to call Leo, he called me proactively. Ethan, I found where Dylan lives. I drove quickly to the location Leo had sent me. When Leo saw me, he immediately patted his chest. Ethan, I am on the side of truth. I won't be biased towards Stella. But I knew that Leo actually couldn't stand Dylan being better off than him. Ethan, he's coming out. Dylan was humming a tune, holding his car keys, and walking towards an SUV. I gave Leo a look, and he immediately understood. As Dylan opened his car door, Leo and I opened the other two doors and got into the car with him simultaneously. What do you want? Dylan's trembling voice echoed in the car. I snatched Dylan's car keys, smiling as I licked my lips. This car must be over 600,000. Stella really spent a lot on you. Dylan's face instantly turned pale, but like my wife, he stubbornly denied it. I don't know what you're talking about. I bought this car myself. I don't know any Stella you're talking about. If you two don't get out, I am calling the police. I gently clapped my hands. Good job, young man. You've got guts. Go ahead and call the police. Let everyone know you're being supported by a wealthy patron. I shook my head again. No, actually, if you think about it, I am the one supporting you. You should call me your sugar daddy. *PFFT*. Leo, sitting in the back, burst out laughing. Ethan, you make being cuckolded sound so refined. I glared back, and Leo immediately shut his mouth. Do you have evidence? If not, I'll sue you for defamation. Dylan and my wife were quite similar in this regard. It was as if they had planned it. I took out my phone and started playing the hotel room video. Is this evidence enough for you? I glanced back, and Leo's eyes were about to pop out. Dylan's face kept changing from white to red. Ethan, I was wrong. Can you please not let anyone else know about this? He looked at me pleadingly. My image can't be ruined. Otherwise, how can I face anyone again? Leo, sitting in the back, again burst into laughter, holding his stomach. Dylan, with your pathetic state, what image do you have? Everyone already knows you. Leo hadn't finished his sentence when I hit him. Shut up. Suddenly, the car fell silent. Leo covered his mouth with his hand. Ethan, I'll give you back all the money Stella gave me, Dylan said, taking out his phone to transfer money to me. I looked at the amount. Is that all? What about this car, and your watch? What about the clothes you're wearing? Dylan forced a smile, took off his watch, and started taking off his clothes. Finally, he was left only in his underwear. Go run 2 laps around the neighborhood. Ethan, do I really have to run? His eyes showed a hint of grievance. You don't have to, but this video might. Ethan, I am going now. As soon as he finished speaking, Dylan scrambled out of the car. Ethan, I'll go help you supervise. Leo's face showed uncontrollable joy. 20 minutes later, Dylan returned, panting. He looked like an eyesore, and many people were pointing and talking about him. Is this person out of his mind? Should we call the police and send him to a psychiatric hospital? I got out of the car, arms crossed, looking down at Dylan. Ethan, are you satisfied? He looked ingratiating, his eyes somewhat sincere. Truly a male model. Actually, even without Stella Thompson, you can find your next meal ticket. I know a few wealthy patrons. If you'd like, I can introduce you. Dylan's eyes widened, his mouth so agape you could fit an egg in it. People like him, once they've enjoyed getting something for nothing, can't give it up. On the surface, he was very concerned about his pride, but in the end, pride was worthless in the face of money. No, Ethan, what kind of plan is this? I don't understand it at all. Leo held his phone, his brows furrowing tighter. Ethan, are you really going to introduce him to wealthy patrons? A male model indeed. Wealthy patron instantly became wealthy patron in his mouth. But you have to do something for me. Dylan was quite honest. He sold all his luxury goods. He returned all the money he could to me. Actually, I don't know how much my wife spent on him, but the amount he returned to me was not small. When I got home, Richard Thompson was sitting on the couch watching TV. Oh, Ethan, you're back. Look, I bought a lot of fruit. Stella is pregnant and should eat more fruit. I glanced out of the corner of my eye. It was just some apples and pears. Ethan, I really need money right now. Can you give me $300,000 first? I sat down on the couch opposite him. Richard, it's not that I don't want to give it to you. It's just that my funds are tight too recently. Stella asked me for $2 million to sponsor a financially struggling student to study abroad. Richard Thompson immediately jumped up and down, rubbing his ears, as if he couldn't believe what he heard. You said Stella gave $2 million to a stranger. I nodded, confirming Richard Thompson's statement. Stella Thompson, get out here. Richard Thompson roared towards the bedroom. 5 minutes later, my wife walked out, her eyes still sleepy. Richard, why are you so loud? You'll scare the baby. But Richard Thompson was already beyond caring about the pregnancy. You prodigal daughter, giving $2 million to an outsider. Are you out of your mind? Becoming more agitated, Richard Thompson stepped forward and pushed my wife. My wife staggered a few steps but didn't fall. Richard, are you trying to murder your own grandchild? What grandchild or no grandchild? It's wrong for you to take my money and give it to outsiders. Father and daughter argued back and forth. I didn't try to mediate, but sat by, watching the show quietly. Suddenly, my wife suddenly realized, Richard, why are we arguing? Isn't Ethan Miller's money ours, yours and mine? Without your initial capital and connections, he wouldn't be where he is today, right? So, His assets belong to us, father and daughter. I had to commend my wife's logic. Richard Thompson's face showed a hint of embarrassment. Stella, let's not bring up the past. Perhaps he still had some sense of shame, knowing he was in the wrong. Richard, don't be foolish, how can we not bring it up? A small favor deserves great repayment, and your favor was much greater than just a small favor. Ethan Miller is just a kept man, reliant on women. My fingers tapped back and forth on the couch as I shifted my gaze to Richard Thompson. Richard, I have a record of every payment I've made to you. I can reclaim them at any time. Richard Thompson immediately shook his head. Ethan, we're family. What's this talk about reclaiming money? Stella, don't ever bring this up again. Ethan is not a kept man. He relies on himself. Oh, I just remembered. I have something to do. I am leaving now. Ethan, since he tight on money, let's forget about the 300,000. With that, Richard Thompson quickly disappeared from my sight. My wife stood there bewildered, still mumbling that Richard Thompson must be out of his mind. I sighed and recounted what had happened back then. Stella, your Richard Thompson took the $200,000 he gave you that very day. Your family never gave me any help. On the contrary, your Richard Thompson has taken a lot from me over the years. My wife stood rooted to the spot. How is that possible? Perhaps in her mind, she always felt superior to me and refused to believe the truth. I found an excuse to go on a 2-week business trip abroad. Dylan, as I requested, invited my wife out. I knew my wife would definitely not agree if I asked her to do a paternity test. So, I had Dylan approach her and trick her into taking a paternity test. I meanwhile, disguised himself, and observed them. Stella, is this child mine or your husband's? My wife shook her head. I don't know either. Stella, then let's get a paternity test. If the child is mine, will you marry me? Don't worry, I'll definitely earn money to support you and the baby. Dylan had Stella Thompson completely bewildered. Dylan, are you stupid? If the baby is yours, then all the more reason to make Ethan Miller support it. We can take all his assets. I frowned. My wife really was thinking of me, wasn't she? Not only had she cuckolded me, but she also wanted me to be an unwitting father and take my assets. When my wife came out after the test, I removed my disguise and appeared before her. Dylan immediately ran towards me. Ethan, I didn't lay a finger on her. The task you assigned is done. When are you going to introduce me to a wealthy patron? He wasn't hiding it at all now. Dylan, what are you talking about? Why are you calling Ethan Miller, Ethan? Dylan curled his lip. Why are you so stupid, old woman? You don't have any money left. Why would I still play house with you? As he spoke, Stella Thompson had already grabbed Dylan's hair, and the two began to fight. Dylan, you bastard. Seeing my wife so agitated, she must have developed genuine feelings. I didn't intervene, choosing instead to wait for the dust to settle and benefit. Suddenly, a horrific scream pierced my ears. My wife was pushed down the stairs by Dylan, and immediately, red liquid gushed out. I frowned. It seemed the baby was lost. Dylan, terrified, fled. When my wife was brought out of the emergency room, the paternity test results were also out. But the results were meaningless because the baby in my wife's womb was gone. Ethan, the baby's gone. We can have another one. I curled my lips into a smile. Stella Thompson, was the child truly mine? She nodded vigorously. I threw the test report onto her bedside table, along with a divorce agreement. Then I took out my phone and sent her the hotel video. Sign it now. After speaking, I left, her hysterical screams echoing behind me. The child was Dylan's. He had personally killed his own child. While fleeing, Dylan was hit in the head by a car and became a vegetable. Stella Thompson refused to sign. She said that even though she had cheated, she loved me. Even if that video spread across the world, it would be my shame, not hers. She would cling to me for the rest of my life. Just as I was preparing to file for divorce, Stella Thompson signed the divorce agreement. It turned out that Richard Thompson was afraid I would reclaim the money I had given him. So he forced Stella Thompson to sign. Afterward, he simply locked Stella Thompson up, fearing she would bother me again. Not long after, I heard that Stella Thompson had suffered a severe mental breakdown, and was sent to a psychiatric hospital. One sunny afternoon, she jumped from a tall building. My career flourished, and 3 years later, I tied the knot and welcomed my own child.